What's the procedure? Stay calm! Wait. Everybody calm down!
Hey Satan, how have you been? Yeah, it's been a while, right? Yeah, I know. I'll tell you in a second. But we gotta first give out some pine points. Here we go. Hannah Elizabeth, 1,000 pine points to you. B. Guzman, 500 pine points to you. And Josoni, I recognize that name, 250 pine points to you. Karen Kemp, you're close, 4th place. Man, we got 2 females, 2 token females in the top 5. Satan, did you hear that? Yeah, that's good because you like to tempt those ladies, don't you? Yeah. What was Eve like? What did she look like? She was fat? Oh, pretty hot and tempting, PHAT, yeah. You're fat, Satan. You're very hot and tempting. Yeah, I've been very busy with life, but I'm back. And I did... Like Satan, what's there left to do, really? Yeah, like... We've talked about the resurrection and the epistemology of believing 2,000-year-old texts as not reliable ways of coming to belief that there's a creator God that has specific directions for your life. Like, what else should I do? Like, we've covered it all, haven't we? Right. Yes, Satan's exactly right. That maybe what atheists should do is just sit back and relax and watch theists debate each other. Yeah, and that gave me a dopamine rush, Satan. I tell you, I was really impressed with actually both these guys. I thought it was a civil conversation, a civil debate. But they didn't hold anything back. And I think both of them made very interesting points, very good points. How do you pronounce this guy's last name? Does anybody know? Daniel Haqiqatjou. Daniel Haqiqatjou. God bless you. Haqiqatjou. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm just having fun, Daniel. Relax. Do Muslims have a sense of humor? I forget. Are there any Muslim comedians, stand-up comedians, who are like real serious Muslims, but their job is to make people laugh? I actually don't know of any off the top of my head. David Wood gives a nice summary here of what this whole thing was about. Let's see. About there.
Can't accept what someone says because they say, "Hey, look at my lovely Arabic prose." And so I just wanted to say,
let me know if the volumes are good, because Myron hasn't been streaming for a long time, and so he might have forgotten how to set the levels. But let me know if everything's fine.
Your overall argument was that Christians are inconsistent from criticizing Muhammad for violence. I doubly reject that. On the one hand, we're not inconsistent because even the situation in the Old Testament is very different from the situation in Islam. Moses came accompanied by miracles. It wasn't just the Jews who were aware of the miracles, the unbelievers were aware of the miracles. And so anyone who's rebelling is rebelling against the Almighty. Very different situation from what we have with Muhammad. And the other reason I'm not consistent is I have to go with the commands of Jesus that are directed towards me, Jesus and the apostles. I'm commanded to love everyone, to do good to everyone, to live in peace with everyone. And so when someone comes along and claims to be in the same line with that and doesn't give some very, very good evidence, but he's contradicting the commands in every possible way, I have to say, no, sorry, you're a false prophet.
We'll jump into...
That's basically the whole debate, well, at least from David Wood's perspective, 3 hour and 45-minute debate, put in a nutshell. Basically, this guy named Daniel, and thank you, someone told me how to pronounce his name. Engineer Pfizer. Fizzer. I've played poker with you, right? Haqiqatjou. Haqiqatjou. Haqiqatjou? Haqiqatjou. That makes sense. Haqiqatjou. That's a very interesting name. So the bottom line is, this Muslim fellow is telling this Christian fellow that how dare you look down on Islam, saying Islam is maybe false because we got this guy who has all these faults and says that he wants to take over the world and create a law, a Sharia law, Muslim law, and do that through expansionary fighting and so forth, at least sometimes. How dare you say that's bad when your God, the Christian God, did the exact same thing? Maybe not exact, but did similar things. And you know what? Daniel's right. This was the best point of the whole debate, that the Jesus that some of you listening right now, maybe on the replay, are wonderful, kind Christian women. Oh, you just love your children, want the best for the world, so your children can grow up loving the Lord. Well, the Jesus you worship and serve did command grave, dire, horrible, heinous, rotten, no good things. I'm serious. He did. Your text says so. And Daniel's pointing that out. Your Jesus that you love, as the second person of the Trinity, commanded the most heinous things. So when I was listening to this, Daniel sounded like me with the arguments he was making. Now, what's interesting is, since I'm a former Mennonite, well, I'm still a Mennonite in the Jewish sense of culturally, Jewish sense, I can give a perspective of Christianity that I think Daniel would struggle more with. Well, maybe not. Actually, David Wood sounded a lot like a Mennonite, a pacifistic Mennonite in this live stream. Because Mennonites, they're a version of Christianity that we basically stayed out of politics, stayed out of law enforcement, stayed out of basically anything that's in the world. In other words, if a robber, if a murderer busts down your door and wants to kill you and your family, let him. Go ahead. See, Mennonites were actually the type of Christianity that you can really respect, that they really believe what they believe because they really did believe that life here on planet Earth is just a vapor. And they really believe that there is a heaven waiting. And so if someone wants to kill you and your family, let them. If God wants to stop them, he'll stop them. You don't have to stop them. And if you die, you die. And that's great, because you get to go to heaven. Now, if you were to use violence and try to stop this murderer from murdering you and your family, well, you're giving them a one-way ticket to hell. Now, the type of Mennonite I came from was non-Calvinistic. So there was this idea that given more time, someone wayward could actually change their mind, repent, and come to the saving faith of Jesus Christ. But how can they do that if you kill them? You're sending them straight to hell. So you don't kill murderers. You let them kill you. If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Now, in this debate, there was a lot of issues that Daniel brought up, that Christianity really doesn't have a system of how to govern a society, like from a government point of view. And Daniel's absolutely right. Christianity in the New Testament wasn't about setting up a government in this world. In the New World, yes, but not in this world. And it wasn't really about setting rules for government on how to conduct a society. He was exactly right. And that bothers people like Daniel. They need rules. Because I think in a lot of ways, a lot of Muslims are like children. They need rules. And if they don't have rules, they don't know what to do. How am I going to live my life if I don't have A, B, C, D, and E, like the little protocols of how to live your life? I think the more intelligent you become, the more you don't have to have these rules. But anyhow, oh, no, Daniel, I'm sure you're a smart guy. Maybe. No, I don't know. But I'm complimenting you on a lot of things you did here against David Wood. And David Wood made some good points too, that the words of Jesus, it's very hard to get, in the New Testament, it's very hard to get this idea of an aggressive, expansionary protocol to take over the world and make everyone Christian. He's right. David's right here. Because I'm a former Mennonite, and I tell you, we pounded that home over and over again in church. Now, in the new world to come, that's a different story. Just read the book of Revelation. And I'm not sure if Daniel brought up, I think he did bring up the book of Revelation, and which was a great point, that Jesus will come back on a white horse to slay one-third, two-thirds of the world's population. There'll be blood up so high flowing in the streets up to the horse's mane. Like, the Jesus in Revelation and the Jesus in the Old Testament was a dirty dog type Jesus. I mean, he was the Clint Eastwood of messiahs or of gods. It's like, and he won't hold anything back. But now in this world, no, there's no really Christian nation building. Now the thing is, that being said, Daniel brought up a great point that, that doesn't stop Christians from doing what they want to do as far as building nations. And Daniel's absolutely right. You don't even have to go that far back in history. George W. Bush was a born-again Christian who talked to God on a daily basis. How do I know this? Because he told me. He believed in the Gog and Magog of the Old Testament and how that represents maybe Iran or Russia. And he thought, I think, that he was doing the Lord's work, God's work, by invading Iraq. You think weapons of mass destruction was the real thing. You guys think oil was the real thing. No. He thought he was on a mission, to borrow from the Blues Brothers, he was on a mission from God. So how does a guy like George W. Bush read verses from Jesus, reportedly from Jesus, saying, love your enemies, do good to those who persecute you, and so forth, and still come in with shock and awe? How does that happen? How can you believe one thing so strongly? Love your enemies. You takes your shirt, give them your pants also, and still say, okay, B-52, not B-52s, the Tomahawk cruise missiles, whatever, dead. Now, this was the reason why Mennonites never joined the army. This is why Mennonites very rarely even went to law enforcement. Is because how do you reconcile that personal responsibility of loving your enemies with the government responsibility as a hired military guy? I wouldn't be surprised if there's some military Christians watching this, or at least former military Christians. Did you struggle with that? There might even be some people watching this who have killed people in Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, who are Christian. You call yourself a Christian, and you are responsible for the deaths of some people in the Middle East, or even South America, wherever, Africa. You've killed people. You've killed what your government told you were your enemies. Now, your government says, kill your enemies. You're following orders. But your God says, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Explain to me how you figured this out in your head. Like, I know you, the answer when I was a Mennonite and I asked people these questions, I know the answer is, well, on behalf of myself, I would never kill my enemy. I would do what Jesus said. I would love my enemies. But on behalf of my government, who I work for, that's not bad. That's not a sin. I'm just, because Jesus said, it was Jesus or Paul that said that the government, I think it was Paul, that the government has the sword for a reason. But I came up with I think, a good analogy that, okay, Christians, listen to this. Can you be an actor and still be a Christian? Of course, the answer is yes, right? I mean, a professional actor, do movies, plays. So if it's not a sin to be an actor and still be a Christian, let me ask you this. Would it be a sin to be an actor acting the part of a husband having sex with his wife in the movie? And it's not just pretend sex. I mean, you're actually having sex in the movie. Is that a sin? Would that be wrong? I'm very curious. I should actually have a poll on this question, because this gets to the question of loving your enemies and killing them at the same time. Because if you say that as a military person, you're just working on behalf of the state and it's not a personal thing, well, if you're working on behalf of a movie company and engaging in coitus, have you committed adultery? Have you sinned before the eyes of God? If you say no for the military guy, you haven't sinned because you're acting on behalf of the state, which God has put all governing authorities in their place. Why couldn't you say that about, well, I'm just working for the movie company. It's not me committing adultery. It's the part I'm playing. Oh, I love cognitive dissonance. It's so much fun. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to start playing this. And but I won't play all of it, and I will also just let it play if I have something to say, because it's just so long and they repeat themselves quite a bit.
Regarding setting up the ideal Christian nation. In Islam, there is no mystery here. Islam is very clear, robust, and detailed in its teachings about what kinds of law and governance the ideal Muslim nation has. In fact, Christians are very familiar with many aspects of the ideal Islamic nation because they're constantly criticizing it. They claim that the ideal Islamic nation has corporal punishment, capital punishment, warfare, and so forth. As a Muslim, I gladly concede all of that. I have to concede all of that because the society of the Prophet Muhammad and the four rightly guided caliphs was...
Yeah, and I think most Christians, especially Christians like David Wood's type, they have no problem with capital punishment and war and that sort of thing either.
Islamic nation without defining the ideal Christian nation. That's not fair. You want to criticize Islam and the Prophet Muhammad for Islamic law and warfare and governance, fine. But what's your brilliant alternative? Look, it's easy for Christians to criticize Muhammad for violence and intolerance because the reality is setting up laws and establishing governance is never a peaceful process.
Well, here's my brilliant alternative. Think. Use your head. Look at what's worked in the past and what hasn't worked in the past. Experiment. I mean, you do not need 2,000 or 1,600-year-old text to tell you what is the best way to run a society. And you don't need this idea that, oh, a god told a guy who then told some other guys to write it down, and this is the right way to live, about issues that they have no idea that would come about 1,000 years later.
Was about peace and turning the other cheek. Well, that's not really a fair comparison because Jesus was not involved in government or law. He was not a general. He did not call for armed struggle. So of course he's going to be relatively more peaceful. A fair comparison would be to ask, if if Jesus were to have created the ideal Christian nation and established God's law and justice on earth, how would he have done it? And how could he have done it without resorting to violence, bloodshed, and intolerance?
Okay, I got to pause here. Well, no, I'll let it play, but I'll mute it. But that was a great point. If Jesus were to create a nation, a government, how would he do it? Well, I think the book of Revelation says how he would do it. He would do it by force. Now, Christians, you're going to hate to hear this, right? Because the Jesus you love and serve and the Islam that you detest, they're pretty much the same in the book of Revelation. How Jesus is going to conquer the whole world.
Third inconsistency is that what I call the politics of Jesus question.
Thanks, Aaron, for the donation. Dopamine drought over. Yes.
It should cause you to be critical of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, and the Sharia. But is this true? Would Jesus, as he is described in the Bible, disapprove of Muhammad? Well, it really depends on Jesus's political outlook. There are at least three possible options. The first possibility is that Jesus was not concerned with politics, law, and war. Rather, he's concerned only with individual salvation. In other words, Jesus is not a political Messiah. Rather, he's a personal Messiah for individual salvation. On this view, Jesus is not concerned with criticizing or rebelling against the Roman pagan regime, and he would presumably not be interested in criticizing or rebelling against other regimes, like an Islamic government or a communist government or a liberal government. He's not concerned with politics at all. On this view of Jesus' teaching do not imply a critique of Caesar's law and military politics, but this would also mean that Jesus wouldn't be critical of Prophet Muhammad, his laws and military policies. I mean, why would Jesus be fine with the pagan Roman emperor who was engaged in persecuting believers, but have a problem with Muhammad? So this option is out. The second possibility is that Jesus is concerned with politics and political change.
Hey, thank you for the donation, my one black friend. Luke 3:14, and the soldiers likewise demanded of him, saying, and what shall we do? And he said unto them, do violence to no man. Yeah, there's and this is why some people have postulated why Christianity is a little less violent today than Islam, is because they can justify the nonviolence by using Jesus' words. But why couldn't they do it in the first, second, or the third, fourth, fifth centuries? How can you read Jesus' words and kill heretics? Kill blasphemers.
Jesus is concerned with politics, but he is not a proponent of anarchy. Rather, he wishes to establish a modern liberal state. According to this vision of Jesus, is not compatible with such a modern liberal state. The problem with this option is that a modern liberal state of this type did not exist before the Enlightenment in the 18th and 19th centuries. Furthermore, modern liberal secularism was primarily created by...
And what's funny about all this is Daniel's making these great points against Christianity, but yet he's not for 1 second defending Islam as far as, I mean, he's just accepting, yeah, I believe in a worldview that says go conquer and kill people who disagree with you or who blaspheme God, and I'm okay with that. Okay. I have to judge Muslims like Daniel here, Haqiqatjou, whatever his name is. Why are you so incredibly insecure? Do you think for one, and I can even enter your worldview to help you see your insecurities and help you overcome them maybe. Do you really believe Allah cares? Or that's the wrong word. Do you really believe that Allah gets angry or upset when an ant like myself, a bug like myself, I'm nothing compared to Allah, right? If I was to blaspheme him, do you think oh, you hurt my feelings, Doug? No. Your Allah, your God would not make a dent. Would not make a dent to Allah. Why does it make a dent for you and other Muslims? Grow up. Get a backbone. Get stronger. Say, go ahead, blaspheme my God. It won't make a dent. It doesn't hurt us. Go ahead, draw pictures of Allah or Muhammad. It doesn't make a dent. We don't care. We're not insecure. We're not like little baby children who get our emotions riled up when our God is spoken ill against, because it doesn't bother Allah. Why would it bother us? Muslims, become stronger. In fact, here's how you do it. I'll give you practical advice on how to get stronger. Put yourself in a situation where someone is constantly disparaging Allah and disparaging the Quran, disparaging Muhammad over and over again. So you just sit there and you just take it. You just listen to the words, just hitting your eardrums. Imagine the worst possible things that you could say about Allah, Muhammad, and just practice until you become dead inside, until you become numb to it. So you could listen to anything and it's not going to bother you. That's how you do it.
A lot of differences between Mosaic law and Sharia. You're saying, how can we criticize Islamic law if we had Mosaic law? And there are some obvious differences. Mosaic law was limited geographically. Islam is supposed to rule over the entire world. So if you didn't like Mosaic law, the border was right over there. You didn't have to, whereas Islam is supposed to subjugate all of us. According to the Bible,
Yeah, but according to Revelation, Jesus will subjugate the whole planet, right, David?
But according to Islam, Muhammad's the final prophet. There's nothing coming after him. In the Old Testament, God gives the Mosaic law to the children of Israel after delivering them from their bondage in Egypt. God doesn't go to the Jews during their captivity and tell them that if they faithfully obey his laws, then he will rescue them from the Egyptians. Instead, he rescues them first and then gives them the law.
Well, there's many examples, though, David, where God does make a bartering system with his children, the Israelites, by saying, if you obey me, then I'll do this, right? God doesn't always act first. He waits to see what his children will do. Hey, Erica Lewis, poker is fun, but there's no substitute for a good old-fashioned PineCreek sermon. Well, thank you, Erica. Yes, and if anybody wants to join Erica, especially if you're female, because right now we only have 1 or 2 token females, and you like poker, let me know.
You know, legal requirements and Islam saying that you have to earn God's love. Now, claiming to, and this would be the most important one for...
Oh, he just said in Islam you got to earn God's love. Well, I got to pause it here. Don't you have to earn God's love in Christianity? No, Doug. No. See, Doug, that proves you don't know Christianity because what you just said. I mean, you don't know anything about Christianity. Read the book of James, you flag-waving phony. You don't think you have to earn your salvation? Read the book of James, you flag-waving phony Christians, and then get back to me. The brother of Jesus? Read his words. Don't have to earn your salvation. You don't have to earn Jesus' love. You know how you know you love Jesus? When you obey his commands. Obey his commands. Oh, but we can't earn his love. The wrath of God is on those who do not obey his commands and accept the free gift of salvation. Isn't cognitive dissonance a bad thing?
Law came with more than mere bold assertions by Moses. God provided miracles before, during, and after his revelation of the law. For instance, judgments on the Egyptians, parting of the Red Sea, water pouring from a rock, manna falling from heaven, and so on. And the pagans, the Canaanites...
See, you hear what David Wood's saying here? He's saying that, well, in my religion, which is sort of the Muslim religion as well, we know that Moses was a true prophet because of all the miracles that followed him. And so therefore, there's no miracles like this with Muhammad. So we know that Muhammad's probably a false prophet and Moses is probably a true prophet because of these miracles. This infuriates me. and Christians, I think you understand where I'm coming from, because when someone asks me, Doug, what would it take for you to become a Christian? Doug, what would it take for you to become a Muslim? I say, show me the money, meaning miracle. Take a water-soaked napkin and ask Allah or Yahweh or Jesus to light it up on fire. Let's go to a graveside for people who've been dead for years and pray in the name of Allah or Yahweh or Jesus for these people to actually just bubble out of the ground and come back to life. Show me the money, and that will tell me that this is true. And this is exactly what David Wood is saying here, and how we can know that Moses and the prophets in the Old Testament were from God, but not Muhammad. Now, why can David Wood demand this of Muhammad, and I can't demand it of Jesus? You're testing. Don't ATM machine. No, your God's not like a vending machine. You just pull a handle and put a nickel in. No. Don't you dare test the Lord your God. David Wood, don't you dare test Allah by asking his prophet Muhammad to do tricks for you.
Stories and incorporated them into later sources, but these stories directly contradict the Quran. Surah 10, verse 20, they say, why is not a sign sent down to him from his Lord? Say, the unseen is only for Allah to know. Then wait ye, I too will wait with you. 13:7, and the unbelievers say, why is not a sign sent down to him from his Lord? But thou art truly a warner, and to every people.
Is David Wood asking for signs from Islam? I thought only a perverse and idolatrous nation asks for signs. If they don't believe the scriptures, they won't believe the signs. I get atheists like me get told this all the time. And here, David Wood is asking this of Islam and of Muhammad. It's unbelievable, the hypocrisy.
Guide, Surah 29.
Nadima says, here's $5, money for your pool table. Sorry, it's not the whole thing. Yeah, from Yahweh. That's a J.P. Moreland reference. I tell you, this is why I'm thinking nowadays, do I even have to do anything? All you have to do to doubt Christianity, to doubt Islam, is listen to debates like this. Listen to apologists like J.P. Moreland, who can, with a straight face, tell stories about asking Yahweh, Jesus, for a pool table. And not just any pool table, the real good pool tables, the ones that don't wobble. And they got it. Went to church and someone said, hey, do you happen to need a pool table? I mean, if that's not a sign from God, I don't know what is.
51, yet they say, why are not signs sent down to him from his Lord? Say, the signs are indeed with Allah, and I am indeed a clear warner. And is it not enough for them that we have sent down to the book, which is rehearsed to them? So the big difference here, as far as I can tell, is God is clearly revealing who's in charge with Moses. And so if you rebel, it's clear who you're rebelling against. Whereas with Muhammad, my goodness, hey, look at my lovely Arabic prose. It must be from God.
Yeah, I agree with David Wood here. The miracle of the Quran is not a miracle at all. I just spat. Yeah. I mean, that argument is horrible. It's terrible. Now, if that offended you as a Muslim, be stronger. Meaning, don't let it bother you. You can do it. But this whole idea is, a text from... You know what's interesting about this? I'll pause it here because I think Daniel says something important soon. What's amazing about this is that I think David Wood had said something in the past about when I did a video of the moon splitting in two and the sun standing still in the sky during the Battle of Jericho. I think that David Wood was almost implying that, but this was written 1,400 years ago. So, you got an ancient Near East hyperbole. But now he's saying, we can rely that these miracle stories in the Old Testament actually happened. It says it. It says the Red Sea parted, so that Red Sea parted. It says manna fell from heaven, so that means manna fell from heaven. David Wood, douche. If you believe stuff like that, What is wrong with you? There's nothing. There's lots wrong with you, but on this point, it's hope, meaning, and purpose, and you don't want to commit murders again, so you have to believe this. Uber Scheiser, thank you for the donation. Only giving $5 today, as I gave you plenty of cash on poker nights. Glad you're back live streaming. Well, thanks, Uber Scheiser.
Of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu. It's a whole genre, Dala'il an-Nubuwah.
Oh, my hair.
And there are so many hundreds of different miracles that were conducted other than the Quran. Yes, the Quran is the main miracle of the Prophet ﷺ. If you want to call all of those fabrications that came later, what's your evidence for this? Because these are coming from Hadith that even Western academics are sourcing to within 50 years, maximum 100 years of the Prophet ﷺ.
Christians, you listen to this? He's saying we got miracles in the about Muhammad, not in the Quran, but in the Hadiths, that come 50, 100 years max after the life of Muhammad. What does that sound like to you? We can rely on the Gospels because they come 50, maximum 100 years after the life of Jesus. My goodness. Sit and listen to Muslims like Daniel talk, and you'll hear yourself. And not for 1 second do you believe the miracle story. Well, I doubt if you believe in the miracle stories of Muhammad. And if you do, you think it's probably Satan, because only Satan would do Muslim stuff, right?
Point, like you completely misunderstood my point, David. My point is that how are you criticizing Muhammad sallallahu and the Quran? How are you criticizing us for abiding by this religion when these things are found in the Old Testament and you don't consider Moses to be an evil person? You're the one who is inconsistent. I don't have a problem with the slavery that would have been practiced according to Mosaic law. I don't have a problem with many of these instances of violence.
I don't got any problem with slavery, owning people. I have no problem with stoning children. I have no problem with beating people. I mean...
Testament for those kinds of acts of violence and intolerance. I'm not saying that everything that's in the Old Testament is exactly true, because as Muslims we believe in tahrif, basically that the older revelations have been modified and distorted and corrupted. And by the way, this
that would never happen to the Quran though, right?
By Western scholarship. But I'm not going to affirm or deny these things that are attributed to Moses. I'm just saying you explain them. You explain how you consider Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as an evil warmonger, bloodthirsty, but Moses, you don't seem to have the same position. As for this idea of the rules of war...
By the way, my goal here is to have Muslims hate me and Christians hate me, and I think I'm doing a good job. But Daniel's exactly right here. Moses is no better than Muhammad as far as this issue of violence around nations, this idea of Sharia law, except it's Mosaic law. Moses, if you hold up Moses as this great prophet of God who led the Israelites to conquer many nations and, of course, be conquered too once in a while because, of course, they sinned. I mean, how dare you speak against Muhammad? He's just doing the same stuff Moses did.
And it's not something that was limited to just Israel. It could be expanded to other places. And there are examples of discretionary war that we can look at. Numbers within the Old Testament. We can look at Deuteronomy. Many verses that talk about the ability of Israelites and Jews to, according to Mosaic law, attack offensively and to destroy these other religions and these pagan practices.
He's right. In the Old Testament, it's not the Bush doctrine of preventive strikes to protect yourself. No, it's expansionary. Go get them. This is your land, your promised land, and even nations further out. God told Moses, go kill them if they don't surrender and become your slaves.
Who is trying to condemn the Bible. I love Moses. Muslims love Moses, and we believe in the Torah. We believe in the revelation of the past prophets. They've just been corrupted and distorted, but I don't have a fundamental problem with the violence there. So I think you've misunderstood I
don't have a fundamental problem with the violence there. But you know what, Daniel? Here's some advice. Maybe just become an MMA fan or boxing fan, because that's kind of violence, but yet it's not like real bad
I don't
violence?
think that's really relevant because I can also cite many Christian authors who said very intolerant things, and Christian emperors, Theodosius, who was very intolerant with his policies. You have to go back to the original sources because that's how you criticize Islam. You look at the Prophet, peace be upon him. So when you're justifying just war theory and so forth, place it in Jesus's actual teachings.
All right, we'll kick it over to David for 5 minutes as well.
Yeah, well, the point about just war theory was simply that that's how Christianity influenced governments. You were asking about, how does Christianity control governments and so on, not by taking over governments, by influencing human beings to have more respect for human life. Now, you said that there are entire books written on the miracles of Muhammad. I pointed out that these contradict the Quran over and over and over again in the Quran. Muhammad.
Arib in the live streams chat says, from your perspective, PineCreek, Muhammad is actually better because there are clear restrictions against killing civilians in the Islamic traditional, while the biblical Moses killed civilians. Well, if that's true in every case, yeah, I think that is better. But I do think there's examples of Muslims killing civilians in history, right, for the sake of Islam. But those are not true Muslims. They're the the wayward types, just like there's wayward Christians who killed in the name of Jesus when they shouldn't have, as David would say. I tell you, here's just a piece of advice: stop killing people in the name of a god. You know why it's even worse? Because when you start killing people in the name of a deity, you actually become emboldened. You have more confidence. You have this gravitas about you that you're invincible because I got a God watching my back. You don't obey this God and worship this God, I tell you, he's going to smite you. He's going to help me smite you. You know what? When it comes to holy wars or just wars, here's my advice. Let God kill people all by himself. You know why this comment bothers Christians and Muslims? Because he won't do it. He can't do it. You know why? I can tell you why, but you're not going to like it. Because he doesn't exist. I will change my mind on this once he starts killing people without any human help. I mean, on the spot, on demand. I'm not talking about killing them through stage 4 cancer or an earthquake. I mean, let's get serious. If Allah is real and he wants to kill a blasphemer, you put him up on a pedestal and you pray to Allah and say, kill him now. And please. And Allah does. Or if God really wants Saddam Hussein killed, then George W. Bush should have got down on his knees and just prayed, kill him now, please. In his sleep, heart attack, whatever. Let God do it. When it comes to things like even civil rights, property rights, if God, if Allah or Yahweh or Jesus, if they're the foundation for all those things, isn't it interesting that he leaves it entirely up to humans to legislate it, to organize it, to give the laws and the punishments for it? It's almost like this God's not involved at all.
From Muhammad coming along, someone who comes along and the guy thinks his first impression of his revelations was that they were demonic. He has to be talked out of that by his wife and her cousin. He tried repeatedly to commit suicide. Whenever something was going wrong, he would try to...
Yeah, but isn't it reported that Jesus' own family thought Jesus was crazy? You got to be very careful here, David Wood, when you're talking to a Muslim like Daniel accusing Muhammad of being crazy, which, in my opinion, is a good hypothesis for some of the things, if he did indeed report these things happen. But same could be said of Jesus. I think it is way more likely Jesus was flat out a nut job than God. And if you weren't a Christian listening right now, you would agree with me. I mean, if you didn't have this love for Jesus and you're like the last 40, 30, 20 years of your life just being ensconced. For people in Alabama, that means like wrapped around like a velvet blanket, ensconced in this Christian indoctrination, you would clearly see in seconds that it is way more probable that Jesus was a lunatic nut job than actually God incarnate. But you can't see that. You can't even hear what I'm saying. You just see my mouth moving right now.
Telling me about God, it would be Muhammad. Again, not just because he's not performing miracles, not just because he doesn't have any evidence. It's because he has this amazing collection of features that make him the least reliable person in history. And it's not just the things I've mentioned already. It's other things like him just constantly getting revelations that have no purpose other than justifying, than Allah giving him whatever desires he has.
Yeah, I agree with David Wood here. That seems very obvious that Muhammad, like Joseph Smith, was just trying to get stuff that he wanted and said, God told me that this is how it should be. By the way, David, the same holds true with the Jews in the Old Testament. Bunch of people want some land, tell other people, God said it's okay, so let us have it. Both Muslims and Christians have to come to the realization that at its core, or at least in the Old Testament for Christians and even for Muslims today, your God is in the real estate business, really. You know, like certain lands are yours, and how dare you free the Palestinians, and I mean, it's about land, right? And you use God to justify taking over land. You use God to justify, oh, you're bad for taking my land. I tell you, if there's a creator God out there, I don't think he's like Donald Trump and is a real estate mogul. I really don't. I could be wrong. But I don't think the God of the universe, if it exists, worries about cap rates and leases and options on expiration dates. And no. Because if he wanted land, he just would make more, right?
Using those kinds of criticisms.
Oh, thank you, Gerard Dassine. Your slave master could command coitus with him. Paul says, obey as if your master were Jesus himself willingly, doesn't he? Yes, he does.
Literature just because the Quran does not.
Yeah, Paul doesn't come out and say that slavery is bad, but it was a good slavery back then.
Just like you in this debate are refusing to acknowledge the miracles of the Prophet Muhammad. Disbelievers, mushrikeen, kuffar, in his time were also repeatedly denying that any miracles took place. But there were many miracles shown to all of the people within the Arabian Peninsula, including things like splitting of the moon, Isra wal Miraj. This was the night journey to Jerusalem, the miraculous night journey. There were even...
Okay, Daniel, you have to stop this. And David, you too. You have to stop saying, we got all these miracles because a 1,000-year-old text says so. But Doug, what if it did happen? And what are you going to believe if a miracle happened today? Would you believe it 2,000 years from now? Today we have so many ways to verify a miracle. And I don't even want to define what a miracle is right now. But back then, it's like so much worse. I mean, how possibly you couldn't even have video to even claim that's been tampered with, audio. I mean, DNA evidence for, resurrections and so forth. The Muslim heritage stems from a very superstitious type culture. The Christian heritage stems from a very superstitious type culture. I mean, the people back then would believe, the majority of them would believe almost anything, any time of the year. And guys like Daniel want to create governments based on that?
Christian Roman emperors who interpreted the Old Testament in this kind of violent expansionist way, all the way up until, the colonial era. And
hey, thank you, Euphonius Flag Wavis. I love your name. $20. Well, thank you. That's very generous of you. Glad you are back. Yes, I'm glad to be back.
Justified on the basis of labeling the enemies of the Christians as Amalekites. So how can you deny all of this precedence, all of this interpretation, and instead you're talking about miracles and something that's really unrelated to this debate?
We'll kick it over to David for 5 minutes.
Yeah, on that last point, that it was expansionistic, and wasn't limited geographically. Exodus 23:31, God says to the Israelites, I will fix your boundary from the Red Sea to the Sea of the Philistines and from the wilderness to the river Euphrates. So, I mean, he actually gives them.
You hear what they're talking about right now? They're arguing about the scope of domination of their gods. And David Wood saying, well, with the Israelites, God set a boundary, borders of where you're allowed to kill people. And so therefore my God's better than your God because your God, Allah, wants to conquer the whole world. Well, so does mine, but we got to wait till end times. I mean, this is absolutely insane how we have two gentlemen saying, well, my God is better than your God right now because he only kills in this area. Your God's worse. I mean, yeah, worse because he kills in more areas, but my God is going to kill in every area later on. David Wood, wake up. Get up in the morning, splash some cold water on your face, and realize what you're doing with your life. I mean, what you're believing with your life. Same with you, Daniel. You're so... okay, I'm going to appeal to Daniel here because a part of me feels for him because he's a traditional type guy, and I don't disrespect that. I can respect tradition at times, but sometimes tradition's wrong, yes? And he really values community and the family, and he thinks those gosh darn liberals, secularists, are going to destroy the fabric of society and cause a worse world for his kids to live in. I get that. However, number one, you do believe life here on earth is just a vapor, just like the Christians. It's so short. You're born, you're dead. You do realize, from even the Muslim perspective, that it's about the afterlife. That's where the real payoff is. So let's say those evil, liberal, secularists get their way, those evil atheists get their way. It's only for a short time. And you got to remember, Daniel, Allah is in control. Every belief and disbelief is because of Allah's sovereign will. He gives belief, he gives disbelief. Now, I'm sure Muslims disagree on that, what I just said. But, so, and also I want to encourage you to know that I'm an atheist, but I don't consider myself a progressive liberal. I lean more right. I'm more conservative. I'm big-time family values. But I mean, Daniel, I think you would say that, and I know David would say that marriage should be between one man and one woman and kids and so forth. To say that two people of the same sex can't raise a child and love them, that's going too far, don't you think? You think that they are incapable to raise a child in a loving way? Probably way better than some heterosexual married people, right, Daniel? There's some really bad parents in the world. And I bet you the vast, vast, vast majority of them are not gay. Hey, thank you, Roger Wenzel. That was my way of trying to, one conservative appealing to another who But I'm an atheist, of course. Roger Wenzel, thank you for the donation. Satan only killed 10 people in the Bible, Job's kids, but God killed a couple million. Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't matter if you're talking about Allah or Yahweh or Jesus. They're all natural-born killers.
He ordered the Jews to bring him a copy of the Torah, and they brought him their copy of the Torah, and he said, I believe in you and in the one who revealed you. Your God says in the Quran, you have no ground to stand upon unless you stand upon the Torah, the gospel, and all the revelation that has come to you. So he clearly believed that the Torah is the inspired, preserved, authoritative word of God. And if you're saying he's wrong, well, that's one more reason to not trust Muhammad.
You got it. We'll kick it back over to Daniel. Floor is all yours, Daniel.
Yeah, so David, do you have that copy of the Torah that the Prophet ﷺ was mentioning? Do you have the copy so I can see exactly what is in it, so we can see if it matches the current Old Testament? Again, a completely irrelevant and stupid point, frankly.
That's an interesting question. Like, do you have the exact copy of, or what Moses was looking at, or what the Torah was 3,400 years ago, whenever it was written? Do we have the very first copy of the parts of the Quran even? I don't know. I truly don't know the answer to this. Do we have the original? I don't think we do, right? Where Muhammad says to a guy who we're not sure who the guy is, says, write this down. Do we have the very first ink on paper? So you've got to be careful, Daniel. If you start asking David for things, I could ask for things too.
Prophet, and this is the message that he's bringing, then there's no objection that you have to sex slavery, slavery in general, punishment for death penalty for blasphemy, for apostasy, and on and on. You have no issues with those things in and of themselves. Just clear.
He's right. I think Daniel's right here. I don't think David Wood has a problem with capital punishment for apostasy in the Old Testament. Now, here's the question. Let me pause it here, because I'm sure Daniel's saying some great stuff. A government's formed in the United States, and it's called the Christian Party. And the Christian Party wants to put a new law in place. Capital punishment for blasphemy. Or, I don't know, what is even blasphemy nowadays? Okay, so Jesus Christ is a schmuck. Okay, let's assume that's blasphemous. Or Jesus Christ is not God. That's probably even worse. The Holy Spirit is made up, fake. All those things, all those phrases, punishable by death, according to the Christian Party, which wins in a landslide vote in the year 2080. And David Wood is still alive. He's an old man, very old man, but he's still alive. And I see David Wood and I said, do you support this? Did you vote for this? Would you support the capital punishment of blasphemers? Now, if you're a Christian and your answer is no, I do not support this. I do not support the death of people for merely blaspheming. My question to you is, why not? On what basis do you say that that's bad? Didn't God establish every government on planet Earth? Isn't God using those governments to execute his justice? Isn't there precedent in your worldview, in your holy book, that blasphemers would be killed and stoned? So if you're a Christian listening and go, no, we're not like the Muslims. No, we're not barbarians. We're not cavemen. Of course we're not going to stone people for merely blaspheming God. We're cultured. We're civilized. But yet I don't think you have any leg to stand on to say that that would be wrong for a government to do. And I think this is the point Daniel's making. And I agree with Daniel.
So, yes, Muslims do have that. Islam does have that kind of level of guidance because Muslims are clean. Muslims are clean. We know how to purify and clean ourselves with water. And this is part of the guidance of revelation from the creator of all human beings.
That's the quote of the whole live stream. Muslims are clean.
The minutia of human existence, the day-to-day existence of human beings, as well as the macro level things, such as how to run society, how to have proper commercial transactions, how to have proper just judiciary systems, how to have all of these things that are so important for human existence. This was, as I mentioned, the Christian governance question. There's nothing in Jesus's teaching that provides guidance on this. And
He's right. Daniel's right. And from the Christian perspective, at least the way I was raised, Christians and Jesus, Christianity and government, they don't coincide, because the Christians in the first century believe that the end times are coming in their lifetime. Just read the scriptures. None will be standing here before Jesus' return, whatever. They truly believed that the end was coming. So they weren't thinking even about establishing governments. Now, by the time Islam came around, they realized, oh, yeah, what was said in the New Testament there was obviously false, because Jesus didn't return. The kingdom of heaven didn't return. So they weren't thinking about setting up governments. And it's all about the kingdom of heaven afterwards. Hey, thanks for the donation, Derek, at Myth Vision Podcast. Ananias and Sappira were killed by the Holy Spirit in Acts. Doug is the king at skepticism. Yes, what I'm asking for, Derek, and a lot of Christians, they get shivers up their spine because they think, ooh, how Doug better be careful because it might happen. But yeah, I am begging, I am pleading with the God of the universe to kill more people like Ananias and Sappira. Meaning, let me be very clear, that no humans involved at all. In fact, we should set up a huge debate, 5 atheists versus 5 Muslims, 5 atheists versus 5 Christians. And I would absolutely love to see the God of the universe say, with a loud voice, this debate is over, and smite all 5 atheists. Then the world can see, yeah, this God's real. Maybe I'm going too far. Maybe a water-soaked napkin is all we need.
Again, the church would want to influence these governments, but Christianity, far more so than Islam, is principle-based more than rule-based. In Islam, you have absolutely no clue how to do anything unless Allah tells you. You literally don't know how to pee. You literally...
Yeah. Okay, I understand exactly why David Wood said what he said, that Christianity is more principle-based and Islam is more rule-based. But the mistake David Wood made here was forgetting about all the rules that he believes God himself commanded in the Old Testament. And I think, if memory serves, Daniel brought that up.
Know how to go to the bathroom. You don't know how to step into the bathroom properly. You have to have all these little rules for everything. And then you say, you don't have those in Christianity. Well, Christianity is rule-based. It gives you principles. Love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto others as you would have them.
Love your neighbor as yourself. Who's your neighbor? Are the Muslims who want to come into Kansas, liberal Kansas, to establish Sharia law, are they your neighbor? Love your neighbors. Love God, love your neighbors. Got a guy wearing a funny hat, coming into liberal, wants to overthrow the government and initiate Sharia. Is that your neighbor, David Wood? Thank you for the donation, Jesse Ledbetter. I'd settle for a vodka-soaked napkin. Yeah, well, that would light on fire. I admit that.
Do unto you.
Got to make sure it's not vodka.
It's not built into our system. You have to have all these little rules. We're created in the image of God. We're not drones here, right? We're ambassadors for the Almighty. Now, going back, you said, do I have a copy of the Torah that Muhammad had? Well, that's a copy of the Torah that Muhammad had.
We're created in the image of God. But who cares? That doesn't stop people from killing people. And I think Daniel brings this up too. The Canaanites, the Amalekites, the Moabites, the Mennonites, they're all created in the image of God, and they get slaughtered. My people were killed back in the 1800s. Who was it? I don't know.
According to your God and your prophet.
Stalin killed a lot of Mennonites.
My goodness, if you're saying it's been corrupted, it doesn't go well for your God and your prophet. Now you asked, would I support things like stoning and death penalty for blasphemy? And so you said sex slavery. I just want to clear, when you're talking about the Midianites and so on, if they were going to take those girls, they had to marry them. They had to marry their captives. This isn't just you're going to be my, I'm taking you as my sex slave.
It's not bad because God told them to marry them. They had to marry them. You just killed my family. I watched you kill my family. And now you want to marry me? Are you giving me a choice to marry me? Can I say no? Can I commit suicide instead? Can I just go run into the desert and take my own chances? And if I die, I die? You just slaughtered my family, my brothers, my dad, my uncles. You took everything we had, and now you want sex with me, but you'll marry me first. David, this is basically what happened, right? Douche, douche, douche. Wake up, David Wood. Smell the coffee. You need Tim Horton's coffee. It smells better. Maybe you'll wake up and realize that if this is true, that the God you worship and served at one point in history said stuff like this, may I make a suggestion that you consider stop worshiping this God and desire hell? Oh. David Wood, you're a psychopath, right? You're not scared. You're not scared of hell. David, if what you said is true, that murderers married their spoils of war, had to, and that makes everything okay, or at least better. I mean, I think you should just stop worshiping and embrace hell. Because I think that's better than worshiping the God you worship. Tim Horton's coffee is gross. Kip Davis is Satan incarnate. Get ye behind me. The dark roast Tim Horton's coffee is very good. It's not Sumatra, but it's very good.
So different from Islam. But as far as stoning and the death penalty for blasphemy, I don't know how many more times I can say it. And if you want me to be as clear as possible.
Yes, please.
Yes, if there is a pillar of cloud right here who is performing all kinds of miracles, raining food down upon us and so on, and that pillar of cloud orders us not to blaspheme, and we blaspheme, I have no problem with him putting us to death. It's
okay. There's the standard that David Wood has set for himself, and I too am going to take David Wood's advice and set that same standard. The question was, would you support stoning for blasphemy or adultery or whatever? He goes, David says, yeah, I would if there's a pillar of cloud announcing in a huge voice, I am the Lord your God, smite this person. Okay, that's my standard too. If the question is, Doug, do you believe in the physical bodily resurrection of Jesus Christ? Well, I will if there's a pillar of clouds coming down, yelling in a loud voice, this is my son whom I'm well pleased, and he appears in front of me. If that's the standard we're going for, David Wood, you certainly should have no problem with my water-soaked napkin analogy or question or piece of evidence that would change my mind. Thank you, David Wood. You have helped me. If good enough for you, good enough for me. I think even Daniel would admit, yeah, I'd love to see a pillar of cloud talk. Look at his eyes.
That we are in rebellion against our Creator. When someone like Muhammad comes along and gives us rules, not only is there no clear reason to think that in resisting him, we're rebelling against our Creator, it seems like the exact opposite. Like this is an obvious false prophet, and we're not supposed to listen to false prophets.
Yeah, and I get what David would say, and I agree with him. When I read in the Old Testament about a God, Yahweh, the Most High God, telling Moses to conquer other lands and take real estate, my immediate thought is, oh, this is just guys saying God wants them to do stuff when really not the case, and they're just justifying their evil actions, just like Muhammad did. Right, David Wood? I tell you, you do not need to debate theists. Just get two theists together to debate themselves and sit back and relax and watch. The outsider test for faith is on clear demonstration here. And if Christians can just for 1 second see that a lot of the things in Islam can be applied to Christianity and vice versa, don't give me this pious attitude. Oh, we're so different. Oh, we both have holy books, yes. We both have prophets, yes. But we're so different. No, you're not.
Rules are like you have to wipe with an odd number of stones, and you have to pee while squatting, and you don't need these things to be clean. It's just absolute nonsense to say that if you don't pee squatting, so much for the patriarchy here, but it's just weird to say if you don't pee while squatting, you're dirty or something like that. And keep in mind, your prophet said that most of the punishment of the grave is from peeing improperly. You're not squatting to pee, and this just it sounds absolutely insane to me. So no, this guy should not be giving.
David Wood, you got to think before you talk. Because if you're condemning Muslims for Muhammad saying stuff, I don't know for sure, but it's something about peeing and how to pee. What about all the weird rules in the Old Testament where Jesus, as the second person of the one being of the Trinity, was saying stuff about like, don't wear clothes with mixed fabric, don't eat shellfish. Like, what kind of crazy nonsense is that? Like, think before you speak, David.
Sure, yeah, obsessive. But hello, have you heard of Mosaic law? Have you heard of the Talmud? Have you heard of all of these kinds of rules and regulations that are found regarding the Sabbath and keeping kosher? Take a look at that maybe and see.
Yeah, great point, Daniel. But now we have the new covenant. The new covenant is like, love the Lord your God and love your neighbor. I mean, we don't follow all those rules now. But doesn't it also say in the scriptures that not one dot or tittle will be removed, that Jesus didn't come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it? And a lot of Christians even today think that a lot of the even Mosaic law, because it was uttered from the mouth of the Creator God, still have value to us today as an example and so forth. And what about the rules of don't be idolaters, don't be adulterers, don't be fornicators, don't get drunk with liquor? There's still a lot of rules in Christianity. Be ye baptized, because water makes everything clean, right? And eat this bread and drink of this cup in remembrance of me. There's still rules in Christianity.
You're just parroting that, like, where's the evidence of God? I don't see lightning coming from the sky. Where's the hand from heaven? And therefore, why should I believe in the Bible? This is the kind of argument you're making, and it's quite ridiculous. Also, I want to really hold you to this point.
I agree, it's ridiculous for him because I can say the same thing.
Expansionist war in the New Testament, because I think you should really read this passage in.
By the way, I have a feeling Apostate Prophet's not going to like me for doing this because I'm beating up on David Wood a little bit more than Daniel. But let me just be clear. I think both religions are false. Both religions are ridiculous. Both religions have this insecure need for hope, meaning, and purpose found throughout this idea of a deity who cares for them and thinks they're, well, at least for the Christian, that they're special, all based on holy books from thousands of years ago. No. You gentlemen need to grow up.
I'll read you the exact passage, but it describes rules for expansionist war, and it does not limit it to a certain border. It does not limit it to a certain time. I mean, look at the modern state of Israel. Okay, if you want to denounce Israel, that's fine, but they literally name their missiles, their nuclear missiles, Jericho. They name their nuclear missiles after these.
That was just in the Iron Man movie.
And
that's not real life.
Benjamin Netanyahu, all of these Israeli politicians refer to their enemies, for example, in Iran or the Arab world, the Muslim world in general, and sometimes even American politicians as Amalek, the people that the Bible.
Likum New York says, I'm not entirely sure why AP supports and protects David. Well, I don't know if David needs protection, but I can tell you why Apostate Prophet supports David, because David is quite knowledgeable about Islam, and Apostate Prophet believes that Islam is false and dangerous. And David Wood leads a lot of people out of Islam. And so therefore, I support David Wood in that. Apostate Prophet supports David Wood in that. David Wood is very talented at leading people away from Islam. Same with Apostate Prophet. They're very good at that. But it just boggles my mind that David Wood can't apply the same principles he uses against Islam in his own life with Christianity.
To go out and violently subjugate the world, that's an Islamic concept. Now, I don't even know why I'm saying this. So you said, have you been to a Christian house? Christians have urine all over. My goodness, yeah, that's definitely what our houses are like, isn't that right? Christians just urine all over the walls and so on. Do you see how they have to? This is how Muslims think. We're just like walking around covered in urine. I have to say, I've heard it's much harder for a guy to squat while peeing. Keep in mind, we're not talking about sitting on a toilet. You're talking about squatting while peeing, than standing up. Where I don't know.
I'm not sure why they're talking about this. I think David was trying to humiliate Muslims with these silly rules. So I get that.
Except issue upon issue upon issue, and he's giving you all these details about how to regulate every little aspect of your life. It's almost like he's giving you all these things to keep you distracted from the fact that he is the most obvious false prophet in history, right? And he does, with his obsession with proper ways of going to the bathroom and how many dates to eat for this and how many stones to wipe yourself with and how frequently you need to pluck.
David, don't forget about the convoluted, complex Mosaic laws in the Old Testament. Everything bad you're saying against Islam here, you can say bad against the God of Israel.
Or do unto others as you would have them do unto you. There's no comparison here, and it really seems like here, do all these little things that make absolutely no sense, and these will keep you convinced that you're the true people of God and that you are, as Surah 3 verse.
You know what's interesting is David is trying to simplify and boil down Christianity to love God and love your neighbor. It's not about a whole bunch of rules. It's about principles, changing attitudes and so forth. And guess what? A secular humanist could say the exact same thing, and no God required, no God needed. Oh, I can hear what Christians are thinking right now. Where's your foundation? How do you justify this? Blah, blah, blah.
Saying, here, you have to put some people to death. We have to execute some people. We can't allow blasphemy. Here are the punishments for this or that. You shouldn't just let anyone come up to you and start giving orders like that. And
Yes.
biblically, you're not supposed to just let anyone come up to you and start giving orders like that.
Does that include Jesus? You shouldn't let just people come up to you and give you orders on how you should conduct your life. Does that apply to Jesus? Like, would you read the Gospels with that attitude? Try it, David Wood. Try it, Christians listening. Take David Wood's advice, and if someone says they're a prophet of God and wants you to totally change your life, your worldview, your perspective, how you treat others, like, you just don't believe. If a guy comes in front of you and says, I'm God, 2,000 years ago, you're in Palestine area, and a guy comes up to you and said, when you look at me, you're seeing the Father, you're seeing God. You go, yeah. Yeah. You just nod your head and slowly back up, right? Well, but he did miracles. Well, maybe he did, but maybe he didn't, and the book just says he did. Do we have reasons to think that a book just says he did, and maybe it didn't happen? Oh, yes, we do have good reason to believe that.
That's why we're told not to follow false prophets in the Bible.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you haven't even begun to study Christianity. Oh.
And if you look at the criteria in the Bible for a false prophet, I mean, my goodness, Muhammad is like the paradigm example of someone that no one should ever listen to. So when Muhammad comes along, and again, this is the same guy who tried repeatedly to hurl himself off a cliff. He's the same guy whose first impression of his revelations was that they were demonic. He's the same guy who claims to be a victim of black magic that's giving him delusional thoughts and false beliefs. He's the same guy who keeps getting these revelations that have no purpose other than satisfying his desires, to the point where his own wife, Aisha, his child bride, said after he got one of these revelations, your Lord hastens to satisfy your wishes and desires. She's noticing this. When that guy comes out and says...
yeah, I see, this is why David Wood is better at debating Islam than me, because of all these like bullet point, I think, do Muslims disagree with what... I know they disagree with how he's framing it, but do they disagree with the facts or the things that he's saying? Did Aisha actually say this about, isn't it like God's hastening to what you're asking? But again, David, you have to think about, one could say the exact same thing about the Israelites in the Old Testament when it comes to conquering. Isn't it ironic how God wants you to have this land and kill these people? That you want this land, you want these people killed. Isn't it ironic how God wants that too?
All right. So I have the passage in Deuteronomy. When you march up to attack a city, make its people an offer of peace. If they accept and open their gates, all the people in it shall be subject to forced labor and shall work for you. If they refuse to make peace and they engage you in battle, lay siege to that city. When your Lord your God delivers it into your hand, put the sword to all the men in it. As for women, the children, the livestock, and everything else in the city, you may take these as plunder for yourselves, and you may use the plunder of the Lord your God gives you from your enemies. This is how you are to treat all the cities that are at a distance from you and do not belong to the nations nearby. Okay, so this is Deuteronomy 20 verses 10 through 20. So continuing. However, in the cities of the nations the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, do not leave alive anything that breathes. Completely destroy them. And then it mentions the tribes, as the Lord your God has commanded you. Otherwise, they will teach you to follow all the detestable things they do in worshiping their gods, and you will sin against the Lord your God. So this is very explicit that it's talking about nations that are nearby and nations that are not nearby, meaning the entire world. And again, this is how authoritative scholars like Maimonides have interpreted, including Roman emperors, including the Byzantines, including the Spanish, on and on. Only modern liberal Christians such as yourself, who really, your true religion is liberal secularism and modern human rights, and you're just putting this Christian window dressing. Only Christians like that have...
By the way, Daniel is purposely trying to insult David Wood here, and the way he's doing it is the best way. I mean, I really do think that David Wood is irked because Christians like David Wood and Christians who follow David Wood, to be called a liberal secular Christian, a progressive Christian, is one of the worst things you can call a Christian like David Wood. And yet Daniel just did it. And so you got to admire his how Daniel's sticking the knife in and turning it. Can I say that to a Muslim? Ooh. But that's what he's doing. And Daniel is, I think, hitting upon a truth here, how someone can read the New Testament, how someone can read the words of Jesus saying to love your enemies, turn the other cheek, and still throughout history kill people for being heretics, kill people for being blasphemers, kill people for being adulterers, because they read the Old Testament. They're Christians in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th centuries. They read the Old Testament and say, well, this is how God did things in the past, so it must be okay for now in the future. These are like huge moral laws, like adultery, murder, blaspheming. The first commandment is you should have no other gods before me, and you have other gods. That makes Yahweh sad, so I will kill you. Because I'm sad when Yahweh's sad. That makes Yahweh disappointed. I'm disappointed when you make my God disappointed, so I will kill you. This is how people who ran governments back then, I think, thought, and what Daniel's bringing up. And they can justify these actions because of the Old Testament. Deep Daddy, I told everybody here before I started that I will not pause the video, and I'm going to let the Lord decide what we hear or not. And if you don't like it, you can leave, because this is a 3.5-hour video and it's linked in the description.
Put it in a vat of urine, and they call this art. Or they go and start talking about the Blessed Virgin Mary, and they call her a prostitute.
I have paused it once in a while.
Jesus Christ, and they put it in a vat of urine, and they call this art. Or they go and start talking about the Blessed Virgin Mary, and they call her a prostitute or a whore. And we're supposed to just sit back and say, oh, okay, there's no problem with this. Guess what? Islam has a clear solution for people who blaspheme against Jesus Christ, who blaspheme against the Virgin Mary. I'm very shocked to hear David would say that. Yeah.
What's the solution? See, I'm going to pause this for that one critic here. Actually, no, I take it.
We don't have any guns.
Let's let him run. Daniel said that there's a solution in Islam for people who treat Jesus disrespectfully, treat Mary disrespectfully. What's the solution? Can anybody tell me? Is it death? I'm trying to think of an analogy. Like, why are people like Daniel and David so much different? Well, at least Daniel, so much different than me. Like, if someone even took a photograph of my own wife and dipped it in urine or peed on it or whatever, would I be that upset that I would want to kill them? No. I am quite sure I'm being honest here. I would think they're stupid and silly, but I would not for 1 second even think about that I should end their life for peeing on a picture of my wife. Why would Muslims, I think the solution he's talking about is death, why would they want to kill someone for peeing on a picture of Jesus or statue of Jesus? What is wrong with you people? You people. People like Daniel, that's what I'm referring to. What is wrong with you people who believe that death is appropriate for urinating on a picture or a statue? Like, don't they believe in eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth? Like, you think that's fair? I don't know. Like, if there's Muslims here, explain this to me. Why is drawing a picture of Muhammad that bad, or even peeing on a picture of Muhammad or whatever? Why is peeing on the Quran that bad? Now, you can say, well, it's disrespectful. Okay. There's a lot of things in life disrespectful, but why is it that bad? Well, because the Quran says you're not supposed to do those things? Okay, but the Quran says there's people who disobey all the time on stuff. Like, should every disobedience be punished with death? I tell you, I'll make you a deal, Muslims and Christians alike. Like, okay, if the punishment should be death, just let Allah do it, though. No humans involved at all. Let Allah do the punishing. And that bothers you that I say this because you know your God's not going to do anything. Your God's not going to do diddly squat. In fact, I can pray to Allah right now to smite me, to kill me. And he won't. I guarantee it. I might die tomorrow, but I guarantee I'm not going to die in the next 10 seconds. What could I say right now that would be deserving of death in Islam to Allah? I honestly don't know. Someone type it in the live stream chat. Let's test it. I'm showing you the confidence I have that your God is fake, not real. And the only thing that Muslims can do is they can get mad, and then that's on you that you can't control your own emotions. And Christians, you're the same way. Don't start cheering me here now. And oh yeah, no, you're the same way. You get so upset when your Jesus is castigated or disrespected. That's on you. You need to grow up and get a thicker skin. There's nothing, Omar, that I can say. I'm trying to test the death theory.
Then, he's worried he's going to have to divorce all his wives because they're complaining. This is massively dysfunctional. And if that's your ideal pattern, you got some issues here. And
David would just said that a lot of the things that Muhammad did and said was dysfunctional. But again, David, you're not thinking, because even in your own scriptures, doesn't it say that God uses the weak to confound the wise? That God uses people's faults for his own glory. All things work for good for those who love Christ. That God used a small boy named David to kill a Goliath. What if God's using the faults of Muhammad to bring the final revelation? Oh, Sentinel Apologetics, thank you for the donation. Say, I believe that Allah does. Yes, I think you're right. This is probably the worst thing you can say in Islam. So I will say it now, and I want to be punished by Allah alone, not by any human. I want Muslims to be strong and resilient and non-emotional, because, it's not about emotion with Islam. It's about rational thought. So I believe Allah has partners, meaning I believe Allah is a being with three persons, three personalities. I believe Allah is a trinity. In fact, no. I'm using the word I believe. That's what Mormons do. Let me be stronger than that. Allah is a trinity. Allah is a trinity. And if that is blasphemy, if that's idolatry, I ask Allah right now to strike me dead. I'm serious. I got some life insurance. My kids will be fine. My wife will be fine. If I die, Sentinel Apologetics will start a GoFundMe account, pay for my funeral and stuff to just help my wife a little bit. Strike me dead right now, Allah. I ask you sincerely. You are a trinity. Allah is a trinity. Allah is a trinity. Allah is a trinity. If that's idolatry and blasphemy, that's one of the worst things I could say. Strike me dead right now. And if you don't strike me dead right now, these atheists listening are going to think that you're not real. Look how much evidence you could provide. We're live streaming. We're live. Look how many Muslims you could be converted today if only Allah would strike me dead right now. This is how Christians feel when I ask them to light the water-soaked napkin, by the way. It's like, I bet you anything. There's some Muslims actually hoping that I die right now. And they're angry that Allah's not going to do it. because Allah just really needs the help of humans to conduct his justice.
I guess according to you, they misunderstood Jesus' message because they were forcing mass conversion. They were killing the heretics. They were killing the blasphemers. I guess they, for 1,000 years, or actually 1,700 years, didn't understand the true message of Christianity. It only took John Locke or Thomas Jefferson to come along and say that, actually Christianity is inspiring us to write the Declaration of Independence and to value free speech so that people can go and make his Christ. I mean, this is a very bizarre interpretation. I mean, ultimately, when we talk about tolerance, what is tolerance? This is something that needs to be defined. So when David talks about tolerance, he's talking about a liberal tolerance. And this is based on the idea that we should allow people to maximize their individual freedom, and any restriction on people's individual freedom using the law or using coercion is intolerant. Okay, so for example, if you don't let people blaspheme against Jesus, if you don't let people commit, all kinds of deviant sexual acts, and you restrict that.
I'm going to feel like Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's going to be a fatwa on me. Oh, that's bad, because I was about to start a musical on Broadway that starred a lot of Islamic characters. And now that I've said what I said, there's going to be a fatwa on me. And so, but what I tell you, what's going to happen now is there's going to be a Muslim that's going to investigate me, my life, and they're going to find I'm not so bad. And the fatwa will be removed within a short amount of time. Don't worry.
Relationships, they have a need to be a part.
You know what's interesting about this is even though I say things that make Muslims mad, I think they still like me. Come on, Daniel, if you ever watch this, you like me, right? Come on, admit it. There's a part of you that likes me. I think even David Wood likes me.
Will actually destroy marriages, that will destroy families, that will destroy communities. And this is exactly why Islam restricts people's individual liberty, despite people saying that this is intolerant or this is contrary to liberalism. Yeah, Islam does.
Yeah, see, this is what he values. Daniel's bringing up the whole family dynamic, and it's if we allow people to speak freely and blaspheme the only true sense of God, who's the foundation for justice, we're going to lose our moral fabric and so forth. Daniel, it'll be okay. You're gonna die in the next 4 or 5 decades anyhow. It'll be okay. It's about the afterlife, so don't worry. Everything's under the control of Allah. He's sovereign.
Years with their institutions, with their religion and rituals in Muslim lands run by Sharia, but look at 200 years of secularism. Christianity is dying out. Christianity is on the way out. Churches are closing. There's mass apostasy. And this is the value of secularism.
We will jump into, I don't know how this...
It's so ironic. He's basically saying, look, David Wood, the country you live in, the West, with its free speech laws and so forth, it's killing Christianity. Stop it. If you want Christianity to survive, be like us Muslims and shut people up. Shut the mouths. Well, that's like precepts. Shut the mouths of those atheists. Because when they talk, people listen, and then they change their minds, and then, and that's a good point. Another reason why Allah should strike me dead right now is because if there's a Muslim listening right now, and because of something I've said today, seriously causes them to leave Islam and perish in hell forever and ever, wouldn't it have been better that I was never born? I bet you if we were to ask the parents of this young man that I've led astray today, that parent wishes me dead. Or it's too late now, but if wishes that I would never been born. But yet Allah created me, right? Thank you for the donation, Bay Marin. Why the beast as well? Why the beast as well? I'm not sure what that question is referring to.
Anyone who blasphemes Jesus, we have to go on a killing spree. I mean, Islam blasphemes Jesus every bit as much as any atheist does. And so look at what you're saying. You're arguing for a massive bloodbath. Hey, anyone who says something wrong.
Okay, I'll pause it here because this is important. What David Wood has said is correct, that Muslims blaspheme Jesus from the Christian point of view all the time when they say that Jesus is not God. You're basically looking God in the face and you're saying, you're not who you say you are. How is that not blasphemy? You're saying, you're just a man. Well, you're a prophet, but you're a man. You are not God. You're staring God in the face and saying, no, you're not God. You're lying to me. You're not who you say you are. Muslims, you do get that, right? Every time you talk to a Christian, you tell the Christian that Jesus was a great prophet, but not God. You're blaspheming according to the Trinitarians. And guess what? Most Christians don't want to kill you. Isn't that weird? Maybe in the 3rd century they would. Oh, Islam didn't exist yet, but the Christians just take a deep breath and they go, serenity now. It's okay. It's okay you don't believe Jesus is God. Jesus will forgive you, maybe. But just repent, you Muslims. Come to the true God. You'll be okay. And Muslims, you're saying the exact same thing back to the Christians, right? Just get rid of your idolatry. Don't say Jesus is God. And then you're almost home. And then accept the Quran and you're good to go.
About Jesus, we have to go on a killing spree. So we got to go and kill. We got to go kill the atheists. We got to kill the Muslims. We got to kill everybody.
No. This is not the point. First of all, Islam and Christianity are the only pro-Jesus religions in the world, right? And there are plenty of religions actually that are atheists and Jews. They have a very derogatory notion of Jesus. Arguably, they are anti-Jesus. You don't have any criticism for them. You want to say that Muslims are blaspheming Jesus when we love Jesus. We're expecting his return. We want to be followers of Jesus in the end times. Okay, so if this makes us, be blasphemers that you want to focus on, that seems kind of bizarre. But I want to ask you this question. When you say that live by the sword, die by the sword, this is...
I love this. Mara Barra says, Daniel's highly educated person, graduate from Harvard. PineCreek barely finished high school. I gotta show this. This is just so funny. I'm trying to... this is bad of me. I'm humiliating someone in my live stream. Daniel's highly educated person, graduated from Harvard. PineCreek barely finished high school. A puss dump. David is a psych. Hey, Mara Barras, you stay in school, okay? I wish you the best.
Not at all. But the New Testament does talk about governments and protecting people's rights and having to punish wrongdoers and so on. And it's the combination of this idea of respecting other human beings and loving other human beings while understanding the necessity for war in certain circumstances that gives rise to just war theory. So I know you're a little confused by me quoting Augustine and so on. There, I was just giving a little history about how the ideas were brought together and applied to other situations. But as far
when is a war just?
It's understood that there are governments, that there are laws, huh?
But that's what I'm saying. It's a contradiction. People were coming after Jesus, and he says, don't raise a sword. So that kind of value, that kind of teaching cannot apply for an entire nation of people. Because
the Bible doesn't, I don't believe that does apply. The idea there is you've got Jesus. If someone's coming after Jesus and God knows what he's doing, and Jesus tells you, hey, do not defend me, it doesn't seem like now I should be going around killing people over Jesus when someone actually did that, when someone actually tried to do that, tried to defend Jesus with a sword, he said, don't do that. Well,
the reason why he said don't do that is because he had a plan, and the plan was to have Roman-assisted suicide. That would have screwed up the plans. Like if we had a time machine and we could kill all the people who killed Jesus, Jesus would say, no, don't screw things up. God purposely created the universe knowing that people would sin and disappoint him, and that knowing that he would have a plan of salvation by Jesus coming as a man God and dying on the cross as a blood sacrifice to atone for the sins against himself. Don't screw that up. This was all foreordained.
Heretics.
Oh,
in Jesus' name because of their beliefs.
I can tell you. Yeah, I give you.
You're going to denounce all of that.
This is my take on this. Right? For 3 centuries, Christians didn't kill anyone. It never occurred to them that they're supposed to control the world. According to the New Testament, the heart.
How does David Wood know that Christians never killed anyone?
Am I to judge those?
There was no vigilante Christians, not just one that killed a Roman.
Penalties and so on. Hey, you don't want to follow the rules of Christianity. There's the door over there. There's the door. Christians don't cause any problems and will generally be fine under various governments. When Christianity permeated the Roman Empire, the Emperor Constantine eventually gets so he's a pagan, but he gets a dream and he sees a cross, and he in this dream, which he interprets as revelation, it says conquer by this. So he's supposed to conquer by the cross. What you have there, again, this is my take. What you have after that is a sort of Christian Roman Empire hybrid. And
the Romans made us do it. The Romans is the reason why Christians killed so many heretics and non-believers. We blame the Romans.
And then now it becomes, and we're doing this with Jesus.
It couldn't be the example that Yahweh gave in the Old Testament. No. Can't be what Daniel's saying.
You never get the idea from the Apostle Paul or from
it actually you do, because Jesus said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. So he actually does explicitly endorse Caesar. He does endorse actually the Roman Empire.
Yeah, but that's not him controlling it. I mean, that's a pagan Roman emperor. That's Tiberius there.
Exactly.
So it's Jesus. Jesus saying.
But you're not going that far. You're saying that you're actually distancing Christianity from the actions of Constantine and these other figures, authoritative figures, Theodosius, and the ones who are killing all of the heretics that are killing.
No, this is the opposite of what you just said. So Jesus sees no conflict between having obligations to a non-Christian government and having your obligation towards God. So you have your obligations towards God, you have your obligations towards your government, which isn't even a Christian government. What I'm saying is, then those two things combine. Well, I mean, if you're talking about obligations to a government, that would be. I mean, in that case, it's paying taxes. You had an obligation to pay taxes. So it says, render to Caesar.
You have to support the invasion. You have to support the killing. You have to support with your taxes, as you mentioned.
This is a good point that Daniel's coming up with, and it's that tension between your personal responsibility to the words of Jesus, even if we assume that the words of Jesus are legit, of turning the other cheek, loving your enemies, and that tension of obeying the government that's been established by God, who says, go kill your enemies. Love your enemies, but go kill them. Do good to those who persecute you, but go kill them, says your government in history of the United States and of Rome, which was a Christian nation in the 4th century. I mean, how do you deal with that tension, Christians? This is why there's Mennonites and Amish and other pacifistic type versions of Christianity, because they can't reconcile that, what Daniel's bringing up. They have to go full tilt and just say, no, I'm not going to be involved in politics. I'm not going to be involved in war. Just let these pagan secularists do what they want. I'm just going to die someday and go to heaven and let God sort it out.
This is talking about paying taxes to the government.
Codex Theodosianus and the citation.
No, my question was, where does he say he's getting this from Moses?
Where is he getting it from? I mean, he's basing it on the Bible in general.
Yeah, where's he? Well, what I'm saying is, what he just said, that sounds exactly like what a Roman emperor would say. It just got combined with Christianity. In other words, that's a...
I mean, thing that this policy from Theodosius and other emperors actually makes more rational sense, because it seems like they're trying to expand and grow the Christian nation. They're trying to preserve Christians from, falling into worshiping false idols. That seems like a reasonable policy, actually. What you're saying seems like the destruction of Christianity and making sure that Christians can't even exist past the first century.
Why? Okay, this is interesting. And there's like the Walmart view of religion versus what's a very high-end store? Chanel, Versace. Like, Daniel, do you want Islam to be like Walmart, where the vast majority of people go and shop? Or do you want Islam to be special, like Versace or Ferrari? Do you want Islam to be like, I don't know, what's the most common car in the United States? A Dodge minivan. Do you want Islam to be like a Dodge minivan? Or do you want Islam to be a Ferrari? Stick with me, atheists, on this one. I actually think this line of reasoning might work with Muslims. I might be single-handedly saving the world here with this analogy. For your consideration, Muslims like Daniel, I think Islam should be more like a Ferrari, a very rare, high-end, high-performance automobile, rather than just like a Dodge Caravan, where, the parts, if something breaks down, it's like $5 for a part because it's so common. But Ferrari, oh no, every single part is valuable. So you don't want everybody to own a Ferrari, Daniel, because right now you have a Ferrari. You have Islam. You are special. So let's keep Islam very, very special. Meaning, let's keep Islam small. Same with you, David Wood. The smaller Christianity gets, the more special it is. Let's keep Islam and Christianity super special, shall we? Wouldn't it be great if there was only like 10,000 Christians in all the United States and only 10,000 Muslims in all of Pakistan? I mean, those 10,000, can you imagine how they would feel? How special they would feel? And Daniel, think about the persecution that you would experience. Same with you, David. I mean, everybody would be against you. Almost no one thinks like you and sees the truth like you do. How great would that be? That you're like a diamond in the rough. Be that diamond, Daniel. Don't settle for these zirconia fake stones that everybody can have. No. Keep Islam small, valuable, and special. You want everybody, the governments around you, the people around you, not to believe like you, because then you're not special anymore. I just solved all the problems of the religious wars, haven't I? Are we done? Yeah, I think we're done. That was easy. Okay, I'll focus on the live stream a little bit. Do I take calls? Yeah, it's been a while. Maybe I should. How long have I gone? 1:55. I'll take 2-minute calls. 2 minutes. You come on, say your piece, and then leave. Unless the Lord leads in a different direction. Okay, so the way you call in, you just click on that. 2-minute call-ins. 2-minute call-ins. Turn the music off, Myron. Turn the music off. 2-minute call-ins. Whereby.com. Oh, the angel is watching over me. Allah did not kill me today. There is no fatwa on PineCreek. Perfect Dawa, you got 2 minutes.
2-minute call-in. Hello?
Hi, you got 2 minutes. What's up?
Okay, hi. This is the Perfect Dawa.
I know who you are.
Yeah, very. I just would like to say that, please, when you talk about, Islam and this Haqiqatjou, just everybody should, say that his version of Islam, because not everybody believe in what he says. For example, for me, he's totally ignorant, very, very uneducated, and he's, a representative of the Taliban or ISIS. He's exactly the same. And so it's not every Muslim believe in what he believes. And I wanted to ask you, I have asked you before, actually, to keep people safe in reality, and keep young Muslim to fall in their hands, these extremist hands. You should help people like me, to confront these people, because they are running away from me, and I have asked you to help me to have a debate with these kind of people, because you know that they block me. So I don't know. You said you have asked them, EF Dava, for example. Did they respond to you? PineCreek.
They have responded. I'll let you go on. You can listen to me off air. Apostasy Prophet, for example, I've asked, and he said he's not interested. But I get your point about not lumping all Muslims in the same box. So yeah, I'm not doing that. I do think Daniel is a very special case, even though there's a lot of them. A lot of people like him. Hey, Derek.
What's up, man?
Let me get you properly.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm like, am I on the screen or?
Yeah. Now you are.
Sorry, the camera's tilted. Great takedown. And you were absolutely fair. When I watched the debate, I thought to myself, wow, Daniel really did a good job in this debate. However, this is the insanity of the whole thing. As much as I know and would side with him and say, dude, you got a good point. Oh, that's a great point. The fact is, what he's rooting for is medievalism. I mean, this guy is literally consistent. Don't get me wrong. We can pat him on the back for saying, you got a point. You're consistent. But anyone in modern times, especially in the West, should look at this and go, no, I will definitely not be wanting those conclusions. I plan on getting with AP. We're probably going to do a review and talk about this and take through it as well, because this is really, you just did fantastic. I have to admit, you did a good job.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I do think that he wants to bring us back, people like Daniel, to medieval times, and it's very dangerous. What did you think of my strategy of telling him that you don't want to expand Islam, you want to keep it small and special?
Well, I think that as an ex-Christian, I felt special having my own particular, I was an elect, I was Calvinist.
Yeah.
So I believed I was one of the chosen, and there was power in that. You feel special.
Yep.
Now, do you want your neighbors to learn how to recite the Quran better than you and get more attention from your imam than you? I mean, there's many reasons why you want to keep this thing hush hush and keep it to yourself. You know, it's a really good point, though.
But there's only so many virgins to go around.
Yeah, I mean, Perfect Dawa pops on my channel all the time too, and he's like, that doesn't represent all Islam. Well, we know that. But it's just we're trying to get everyone to start seeing underneath all of these things, all of them. Do you really need any of it? But I have to admit, if I were to give my own personal conclusion on who won that debate, it would definitely be Daniel in terms of the consistency. That's just my opinion. Even though there were some points that...
No, Derek, I have to disagree with you. You know who won that debate?
Who?
Atheists.
Well, yes. You're right. We sat back and ate popcorn watching this going, are you kidding me?
Any fence-sitting young Muslim or Christian watching that, I think, saw some of the things we saw and going, why am I believing this again?
I love that. I love how Daniel's trying to get David to see your Trinity is responsible for the Old Testament. At the same time, he wants to pull back and go, but the Bible or the Quran never says kill women and children, right? Make them your sex slaves, sure, but not kill them, right? Like there's some degree of whose worse version is better. And that's why we sit back and can laugh at this and just be like, I mean, it's sad and it's also funny at the same time. I have a bad sense of humor.
Yeah, and I didn't play the part where David said, well, there's evidence that they weren't wiped out, the Amalekites or Canaanites, and that they existed later. He's basically saying, well, there's evidence that the Old Testament's contradictory and not reliable. And it's like...
That's a good point. That is a really good point. I mean, there's so many things to bring up that you touched on during that entire review. And it's just it was a fun debate to listen to because you're sitting there seeing both sides, how ridiculous it really is.
Yeah.
Just the whole thing.
What do you think drives people like Daniel to be so aggressively expansionary, willing to kill people for this belief? Where does that come from? Because I don't get that. I was raised Mennonite, and I've never gotten that.
I can't relate to the going and killing people, I guess, but the idea of really trying to proselytize everybody and convince them that what you believe is true. I was that kind of nutcase that would literally turn every conversation into Jesus. I mean, it got annoying where people didn't want to be around me because I kept thinking about Jesus and how come you guys aren't worried about hell? And haven't you read this Bible verse? And like, it was just all I thought about and tried to defend Christianity. So I wonder if it's a combination of the delusion of faith, right? But also attention. I mean, the guy's got to be getting a lot of positive attention. There may be some ego there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, but there's a lot of people like him who
I don't know.
Don't have YouTube channels and so forth, and they think the same way. And
that's true.
But you know what? 2,000 Pine Points to you.
Shut up.
For coming on and sharing your Yeah.
My friend.
I just got a note from Satan in the corner. He passed it. He said, hey, give Myth Vision 2,000 Pine Points. He deserves it.
Dude, I can go die now and go to heaven because I've been waiting this whole time. How long have you remember when I super chatted you a very long time ago? It was like, I've been watching you for a long time and I'm like, all right.
Yeah, but I'm not a whore, right? I'm not a prostitute. I'm not a gigolo. Well, one of my younger days, but so super chats don't buy Pine Points. But anyhow, Dr. Kip wants in here, so I'll let you go.
Thank you. Tell Kip I said I love him.
Okay, take care.
All right, brother.
See ya. Dr. Kip.
Hey there, man. How you doing?
Holy smokes, that's a nice picture.
You like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Dr. Bowen, and is that you?
Yeah.
Man, you look so manly there. You look so manly there. You could be a Muslim.
That's kind of what we were going for, actually. So yeah.
How Muslims conquer the world.
Yeah, I know, right? So I commissioned this one with the money that I had left over from selling the Paul Brandt picture.
Okay.
So I took some of that, most of that money, and I invested it in the Saskatchewan Rough Riders.
Oh yes, yeah. I think.
And I had some left, so I paid an artist to do this one for Dr. Josh and I, or teaming up for a.
That's football. For people who don't know, like these Americans here are ignorant. Saskatchewan Roughriders is a football team.
Well.
Well, they wear the jerseys.
They take the field. They wear green. They do something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So am I right? Am I right? Tell me I'm right that atheists don't have to debate theists ever again. All we need to do is get theists of different sorts to come together and debate each other, and we just sit there and watch
and go, yes. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. I think that's a solid strategy. And maybe that's what should happen is atheists should start offering to host these debates between theists and say, yeah, come on, have it out. I've got no dog in this fight, and I'll make sure you know who's coming out on top.
Well, so, Derek thought Daniel won that debate. I'm not a big person on who wins debates, because in order to win a debate, you actually have to score it on a certain criteria, and I don't think anybody does that anymore. It's a lost art, right?
Yeah, and for me, it's hard for me too, and maybe you have this experience, but once I've watched someone a few times in these situations, I already develop like preconceptions about what they're doing and what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I often feel like I'm not a good arbiter of these sorts of things, because I already have a bias about who I think is going to win or going to lose. In this case, I mean, I had no idea who Daniel was, and I've watched David Wood quite a few times, so right away I was like, well,
What's interesting about guys like Daniel is he's just so non-apologetic about his stance. He's like a precept Christian. Right? He's basically, I'm for killing people, especially the blasphemers and the adulterers and all that, and I want Islam to expand and take over the world and deal with it. And
right. So and there's a lot of, I agree with you. It's hard to, I mean, you can fault people for like Daniel for thinking those things, because those are terrible thoughts. You can't fault them for owning them, though, right? Where lots of times it feels like Christians who enter these debate scenarios are more often just trying not to offend too many people.
Yeah, damage control. Except for the precepts, they'll own it.
Exactly. So,
but Calvinist precepts and Muslims are very similar in a lot of ways. Muslims like Daniel.
I would agree. I bet they are. So, there was something that I wanted to just mention briefly, and get your read on this. At one point, Daniel was talking about how much Muslims admire Jesus and appreciate Jesus. Yeah. And I had never, I mean, I know very, very little about Islam. So I mean, this was new to me, and it kind of got me.
Well, thinking, I knew they always respected Jesus as a prophet of God, but when he added it, that they believe that he'll return, like that, basically the Revelation end times theology that they embrace as well. That I didn't know that. I thought, whoa.
I know, right? Yeah, like that was new to me too. So, but so have you heard about this? I guess for the last 10, 15 years, there've been all these reports from evangelical circles and apologists about huge numbers of people in the Middle East, in these Islamic saturated countries, having what they call visions or dreams of Jesus, and it's leading all sorts of Muslims to become Christians. Have you heard it? Have you ever heard about this?
Well, it started with Nabir. What's his name? Nabir.
Oh, is that David Wood's friend?
Yeah. It started with his book, I think. And then,
really, eh?
Yeah, I think it's well, I shouldn't say started, but it helped make that more popular. But it all derives from, I think, people being familiar with Christianity.
Oh,
maybe having some fellow Muslim friend tick them off, and so now they're considering other worldviews. And
I always thought so too, but now this, now listening to Daniel kind of makes me think, well, maybe there's more to this, and maybe there's already a pre-context, like within Islam,
because they admire Jesus so much.
Yeah,
it might switch prophets.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. It just and now I'm really interested to know what a Muslim thinks about this. So, but
okay,
David Wood was right there, and Nabir's his friend. Would have been nice if he asked. So, anyways, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
So
Satan did not slip me a note to give you pine points. I apologize. So,
well, it's probably because I hate Tim Hortons coffee. And honestly, I know you guys are in cahoots because Satan is just all up in there.
Well,
with
Satan
Tim Hortons.
is the CEO of Tim Hortons, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've known that. I've known that for years. Ever since I watched those terrible TV commercials in the 90s where Tim Hortons shamelessly wrapped themselves in the Canadian flag. I was like, yeah, Satan.
Yeah.
That guy.
Thanks, Kip.
Gal. Sorry.
Yeah, take care.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. I'm willing to take a couple more callers. I know those were a little longer than 2 minutes, but they were still pretty short. Christians never call in anymore. Actually, I'd be curious to know if there's any Christians who would say that David Wood did not as well as Daniel. Would you be willing to admit that? I do think it's a problem for people like David Wood to have to defend the sweet baby Jesus in the New Testament who loves the children with the Jesus who drowns them in the Old Testament. Actually, Daniel would have that same problem too if he admires Jesus so much. Who's the real Jesus to Daniel? The one who puts children on his knee or submerges them underwater? Yeah, Allah, you're free to hop in. Jesus, you're free to hop in. Jesus, if you want to come in, there's the address. If you forget where I am. You are too strict to Christians, Doug. Yeah, wood got chopped. Didn't I make a video entitled that? Chopping wood? I feel like this is my fault this debate happened. Really? I'm surprised Catholics are so silent about the governance issues. Yeah, what's interesting is, well, one time Catholics were okay with the governing of countries, a theocracy. But I would say most Christians in the United States are against a Christian theocracy. In my anecdotal experience. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I think a lot of Christians in the United States would say Christianity is prone to die even faster if it becomes part of the government. Please debate David, Doug. Okay, JKL. I demand David Wood to debate me. I ask humbly for David Wood to debate me. Takes two to tango, JKL. I've invited David Wood on my show, I think. David Wood, if you're listening, you can hop in right now. Can I come on sometime and tell you a bit about the Baha'i faith? Why do I need to know anything about the Baha'i faith? Sage bias. See, at least with Christianity and Islam, they combined, they make up, at least in name, close to half of the planet. The Baha'i faith? Why should anybody care about the Baha'i faith? Because it's true, right? But yeah, I'm being kind of rude, Sage, but yeah, I'm not opposed to it. But just warn you, I might get bored. Actually, could you have a chat with Daniel Haqiqatjou? Sure. Daniel, you're invited anytime on my channel as well. The thing is, like, I know so many times people make comments like that. Well, why don't you debate so-and-so? Why don't you talk to so-and-so? They got to say yes to that. And the thing is, if it's a formal debate, no, I don't want to do that because I'm a busy guy. The reason why I've been not on live stream for the last week or 2 weeks, it's because I'm busy. I got a life. This is not my life. YouTube is not my life. Not even close to my life. This is a hobby where I have fun, where I chill, where this is my fishing. This is my poker's number 1, YouTube's number 2, golf number 3. In that, maybe not in that order, but they don't want to talk to you. I don't know about that. I think my guess is Daniel doesn't even know who I am. I know David Wood knows who I am. But I think if I was a channel with, I don't know, 200,000 or 300,000 subscribers, David Wood might be more likely to talk to me. I do think it's about numbers for him. But I do think he realizes that if he talks to me, he has to be a little more careful. Because I will ask him questions that, actually, some similar questions to what Daniel asked him, that he just won't want to answer. Like, I'll ask him lean true or lean false questions. And in that scenario, there's no bloviating, there's no using apologetic rhetoric to hide what you believe. It's like just, but I honestly think David would be okay with that. He's a little more forthright than other Christians. He'll say, yeah, Jesus drowned babies. Deal with it. Hey, PineCreek, no tuxedo. Very disappointed. Yeah, I was going to wear a tuxedo today on my day back. But when I picked it up at the store, on the way home, there was a car pulled over and some people screaming, and so I pulled over too. And it was a white tuxedo I picked up. It was really nice. I didn't even take it off. I tried it on. I'm wearing a white tuxedo in my car, in my Ferrari, on the way home. And then I see this scene where all these people are screaming, and a woman was about to give birth in the back seat of a Camry. And so nobody knew how to help with that. And so, but I have read some books. I've been around. I remember one time after the harvest of 79, I delivered. But anyhow, so I got in there and I just like blood and placenta all over my white tuxedo. So I had to get it dry cleaned. But good news is it's a healthy baby boy. And the mother said that they will call the baby PineCreek.
You can't help but smile like a little bitch.
Yeah, that's going to stain. That's going to leave a mark. Hey, Spartan Theology, welcome. PineCreek, but you don't read books. I don't read books from cover to cover. I read, though, all the time. I read too much. Jesus is Lord. He is the good shepherd that shall again appear. Or maybe not. PineCreek, wouldn't a baby PineCreek be unbiblical creek? You, well, I see what you did there. Yeah, this baby was born without a umbilical cord. It was, funny enough, the woman said she had never had sex, never had coitus. PineCreek Jr. is the result of immaculate conception. PineCreek, the virgin birth. That's a good story. What is better, Lord of the Rings or the Bible? Well, I think Lord of the Rings, because I can get through it faster. A lot of the Bible's not written well. Last chance, Christians, Muslims. Man, scared. Always scared. Do I need to buy another German Shepherd? Now there's a fatwa on me. I'm a pacifist, but my German Shepherd isn't. Hey Deepak, good to see you here. Parts of the Bible are amazing as literature, Sermon on the Mount, hope, faith, love, etc. You know, I'm not that impressed with the Sermon on the Mount, to be honest. Like, blessed are the poor, the meek, like, no, some poor people are stupid. I see Deepak smiling right now. Deep Daddy, cheers, PineCreek. Enjoyed watching you give your commentary as always. Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for being here. In the end, you don't read books completely, right? Right. I don't think anybody does. Maybe a small percentage of people. But there's so much fluff in the average book. Like, I treat almost all books like textbooks that you're not supposed to read from cover to cover, but section to section, depending on interest and need. It's completely inefficient to read books from cover to cover. Poof. My apologies to David Wood and Daniel Haqiqatjou. They were scheduled to come on and discuss this with me, but we ran out of time. Thanks for coming, guys.